All right, kids, back when people used to talk about main character energy more often, I realized that I didn't need top billing as long as I stole the show. Think of it as a movie role and I'm a supporting character with the funniest scene, or a song by somebody else that I'm featured in, but I have the best verse. And no matter if it's a film poster or album cover art, I don't need to have what I call the Michael Jackson space. I'm starting with the man in the middle, but I also don't want to be wide and on the outsides like Tito either. Don't get me wrong, the late great Toriano Adero, aka Tito Jackson, was a founding member of the Jackson 5, the third oldest child of Joe and Catherine, second oldest boy, and older brother of Michael. Tito led the way for the band with his rhythmic guitar work, and even though much of his success depended on someone more rich and famous than him, he didn't make his entire career or personality about another man.
John Cornyn's attacks on me are pure projection. He said Trump's border wall was stupid. Now he calls me weak on the border. He said it was time to move on from Trump. Now he claims I'm anti-Trump. I stood for Trump. I campaigned for Trump. I was the first to endorse Trump. He attacks me because he can't defend his record. On March 3rd, turn the page on the establishment.
U.S. Representative and U.S. Senate hopeful out of Texas, Wesley Hunt. We're going to put him front and center. Hunt is a member of the Republican Party and is the Tito Jackson of Black conservatives. If you couldn't tell by his lack of lead singer energy, swagless delivery, and his white wife. There's got to be another historical figure that I can compare him to, but not too long ago, Hunt tweeted, "The Democrat Party's worst nightmare in one room. Stay tuned," posting a picture of him with 4 other Black conservative politicians in Congress. Senator Tim Scott has the MJ spot, by the way. I guess the Dems are supposed to be afraid of ill-fitting suits and poses that make these dudes look like they're trying to focus on keeping their hands attached to their wrists. Hunt apparently hasn't stopped to ask why there are only 5 of them and why it's so hard for Black people to get elected in his party. He hopes and feels like white people can't be racist since they voted the likes of him in office to do their bidding. And someone who named their YouTube channel the way that I did would put it this way, but take a listen to Wesley's theory.
I like the idea of our party not playing identity politics anymore, and then realizing that you see people like me, you see people like Byron Donalds, you see people like Senator Scott. We are all winning in white majority areas, by the way, people. So you can't call us racist anymore. A lot of white people had to vote for this Black man because they are judging me not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. And I am somebody that is a United States congressman in a white majority district in a suburb of Texas that I won by 25 points. And President Trump has won by 20 points because I'm truly being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character.
Wesley ran for one district in the 2020 elections, lost. Then, a day after Texas revealed their redid maps, he announced his intention to run in the new district that is 50.1% white and voted for Trump 3 times. One Houston media member said state GOP lawmakers carved out a new district, Texas's 38th, specifically with Wesley in mind. And he won. Also, wait, how much did Hunt win by again?
I won by 25 points. I won by 25 points, which I beat out a white guy by 30 points.
I'm sure he's mistaking his different elections, or he's lying, or he's stupid. Whatever the case may be, Wesley Hunt doesn't get as much attention as some Black conservative pundits, let alone many Black conservative politicians. Even the Herschel Walkers and Mark Robinsons of the world, who failed. No matter, I could argue that Tito was more known than 3 of his brothers. And not that Wesley does this for the popularity, but if he wins the Republican primary on March 3rd and ultimately becomes a U.S. Senator, he would make history. And maybe them white people will actually listen to him.
Under President Trump, American families had more money in their pockets and bank accounts. American families could invest, save, and buy a home. Under President Trump, we had the greatest economy in our lifetime. And in less than 4 years, under Joe Biden, everything changed.
Oof. Okay. I first heard of Wesley Hunt when he was a co-panelist alongside Congressman Byron Donalds the day he said that the Black family was still together under Jim Crow. This event was hosted by Sage Steele, and between the 3 of them, Byron was the one in the middle. Anyways, this took place at around the same time that the House Republicans failed to reinstall a Confederate memorial to Arlington National Cemetery. Almost 90% of the House GOP voted in favor of this amendment, including Burgess Owens out of Utah, who was in the picture from earlier, in addition to Byron Donalds and Wesley Hunt. And before we continue, it's the Confederate memorial seen here, with a black woman depicted as a mammy carrying an infant of a white officer, and a black man following his owner to war, according to the cemetery. So, at this event in Georgia aimed at slave-catching black men away from the so-called Democrat plantation and bringing them to the Republican plantation, Wesley Hunt was asked about his legislative record, his morals, and principles, and responded this way.
The point I'm making is that I actually do understand
You
where I came from.
don't
I
understand.
totally
It's
recognize
obvious.
the value of
It's
that.
obvious.
And what I want to say is, at no point in time will I ever be a victim. That's why
Everybody
I'm sitting
has a
here
story,
right
is
now.
my
And
point.
I don't care what the name of
What
the
are you
statue
going to
was.
do?
And I don't care what the name of the
Everybody
building
has
is.
an opinion. What are you going to do?
I don't care what the name of the building is because
I'm a black man. This is a
I am
conversation
not.
for black men. And
He doesn't want to change the name of Robert E. Lee's barracks or take down racist statues for that matter because he's not a victim. If that's what it is, then why would he change anything at all? Ever? Oh, and did you, black man, feel enticed by Congress, cognac, and cigars? And cowboy boots, evidently? You should know that Wesley Hunt doesn't just wear them, he licks them.
The bottom line is this: when a federal officer gives you instructions, you abide by them, and then you get to keep your life. And it is clear that she tried to use her vehicle as a weapon, mow over an ICE agent, and now she is dead. And her death is tragic, but at the end of the day, it was completely avoidable if she would have simply followed the commands of the ICE agents.
Real quick, compare that take of his, of the shooting death of Renee Good, to what he had to say about the shooting death of Ashley Babbitt.
One person was killed that day. It was Ashley Babbitt. She was a white unarmed person that was killed by a black Capitol police officer. Imagine if that had been the other way around.
This rank hypocrisy was pointed out by Daniel Hodges, a Washington, D.C. Metro police officer who defended the Capitol on J6. We'll revisit Hunt's appearance on Bill Maher in a minute, but going back to J5 and that Confederate contradictions and controversy thing, in NBC's write-up of the event, they noted several audience members accusing Hunt and Donalds at various times of repeating generic Republican talking points or deflecting issues of concern. And yeah, that's by design, of course. And it's propaganda that's paid for. Plus, Wesley Hunt rejects viewing himself as black or African American first, which is fine. But he will use skin color when it's convenient, meaning he notices the differences between the justice system for Black America versus the Biden family. Furthermore, he says he likes the idea of his party not playing identity politics anymore. This may have been after he showed how the mainstream media ignored Biden's bribe allegations compared to how they report on his Republican daddies. Speaking of,
give me 30 seconds on what you would like to hear Trump say.
This is not what I like to hear. This is exactly what I think we're going to hear. We are going to hear a steady hand. We're going to hear the voice of a father and a grandfather. We're going to hear the voice of the future president of this country telling us that it's going to be okay.
I'm not shocked that I haven't talked about Representative Wesley Hunt yet. I mean, I can't stress enough. He is Tito Jackson, but I am surprised seeing how he could have fit into my videos about daddy issues, why Uncle T doesn't always apply, and how to avoid getting your face eaten by leopards. Yet, I bet Wesley knows what he's doing. And he's doing it. Black history suggests to comply or die. And according to him, no one has been a fiercer defender of our history than him. So I hope he knows who Isaiah Montgomery is. Stick with me. Isaiah Montgomery was born into slavery and held in bondage by Joseph Davis, whose brother was Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. After the Civil War, Montgomery founded and became the mayor of Mound Bayou, Mississippi. In 1890, a constitutional convention was called strictly in order to disenfranchise the black vote. However, white Democratic conservative Mississippians, wanting to do so legally and to avoid violating the Constitution, they hid what their right hands were doing. Picture it as wearing one rhinestone glove as an understanding clause, which forced any potential voter to read and comprehend the state's constitution. And if you or Wesley don't believe me. James K. Vardaman, who later served as the governor of Mississippi and its U.S. senator, admitted it. There is no use to equivocate or lie about the matter. Mississippi's Constitutional Convention was held for no other purpose than to eliminate the N-word from politics. Not the ignorant, but the N-word. Keep in mind, the enslaved and freed people were made to be illiterate. With that said, Isaiah Montgomery, the only black and Republican delegate in Mississippi who was invited, shook his body down to the ground. Take it away, Garrison Hayes.
And despite that fact, Isaiah Montgomery, a traitor, cast his vote along with white supremacists in favor of the racist literacy test, claiming that his support for the law was to purify the ballot by only allowing literate people like himself to vote. A black newspaper wrote this about Isaiah Montgomery: "It would be better had such a man never been born, much less have been elected to represent the Negroes of Mississippi."
Frederick Douglass said this about the race problem and Isaiah Montgomery: "Their real sentiment is that no Negro shall or ought to have the right to vote. Yet I have no denunciation for the man Montgomery. He is not a conscious traitor, though his act is treason. Treason to the cause of the colored people, not only of his own state, but of the United States." This was where and when elections were violent. I don't know if Isaiah Montgomery's life, livelihood, or the town he lived in dependent on his decision, but he did what he did. I'm not saying that Wesley Hunt's situation is so severe, but he knows what time it is. However, because he's strumming away for white America off to the side, not too many people have clocked it. He won't acknowledge that if he, for example, takes down the remnants of white supremacy, his political career has no chance of surviving elections. Therefore, on Bill Maher's show, The Lion's Den to him, again, not a victim, this dude claimed that he should maintain the name of a Confederate general and commander who attacked Americans and should have been hanged. Why?
That is America.
Yes.
And I do not want to take down these statues and change the names of these buildings because they're a reminder of what was. Okay. And if we don't remember it, we are doomed to repeat it.
Doomed to repeat U.S. chattel slavery, he says, to his mostly white voting bloc in the South. Yo, Confederate Memorial was built by Moses Jacob Ezekiel, whose name makes him seem like he was Jewish, Christian, and Amish, all at the same time somehow, yet was a supporter of the lost cause narrative and would write that they fought not for slavery, but for the principle of states' rights and free trade in the defense of our homes, which were being ruthlessly invaded. As of this recording, Wesley Hunt is polling at 3rd out of 3 in his home county and Texas at large, behind one guy who probably doxed him and the other guy who possibly cheated on his wife. DJT supports all 3 of them, which means that he doesn't or hasn't endorsed any of them. It doesn't seem like GOP leaders even wanted him to run in the first place. Not great, but still not bad for a black man in the Republican Party who voted in the 2008 Democratic primary for Hillary Clinton and did not vote in Republican primaries from 2010 through 2018, and also did not vote in the 2016 general election at all. Apparently, Wesley Hunt misses a lot of House votes for one reason or another. I don't know how that helps his constituents, but his top priority is clearly to support the supposed PDF in chief.
The people of Greenland will get to decide whether or not they want to be a part of the U.S. Let me ask you a very simple question. Do you want to be a part of the greatest country in the world, or do you want to be a part of the failed leadership from Denmark? And quite frankly, it's quite simple for me. I think it'll be quite simple for them as well. But
on his campaign website, he says that he wants to aid Houston flood mitigation. Good. But based on his own stated logic, I thought he would put up a memorial of the excess water into H-Town as a reminder of what was. And that's kind of how conservatives learn things. He took a strong stance against Sharia law. There you go, Texas. That might be enough for some people. Oh my gosh. Whether or not black conservatives are like Isaiah Montgomery in general, or if Wesley Hunt is Tito Jackson specifically, their MAGA agenda, along with the rest of Republicans, need to lose their majority status during this year's midterms. It just occurred to me that younger millennials and Gen Z or Gen Alpha, like my kids, may not know who Tito is. Think, has Belle Biv or DeVoe ever been in the middle of New Edition pictures? Wait, who would be in the middle of their Belle Biv DeVoe pictures? Then there's Chris Kirkpatrick of NSYNC, Louis Tomlinson of One Direction, Audrey and Ray from K-pop Demon Hunters because EJ got the middle on lock. Before I go, Isaiah Montgomery did a lot for the sake and safety and subsistence of black men and women. Frederick Douglass said, he is not to be dismissed by calling him a traitor, nor a self-seeking hypocrite, for he is neither the one nor the other. Like a general on the field of battle, he has retreated when he could no longer fight and has surrendered a post which he thought he could no longer successfully defend. And hey, there might not have even been a Jackson 5 if it wasn't for Toriano Adero Jackson breaking a string on his father's guitar while trying to experiment with it and play it, and probably got a whooping, leading to Joe getting Tito his own when he was 10 years old. All black history is American history, and we should celebrate it all year. Thanks for watching. We gonna be all right.